Hello friends, welcome to your restore class today. My name is Jenny. This is a restore practice, so we do sometimes utilize props. They are a nice tool for when we hold the poses a little bit longer to offer some support, either to the skeletal structure so that you can release the muscles around the structure, or to support the body so that you don't go too deep and cause any harm. So a couple things that you may want to grab around your house, or I've got a few other things in case you don't have them. A block or two is nice. A good substitute for these are books or something of similar size and shape, just to give you a little lift, a little support. You also will probably want a cushion, a pillow, or a bolster, about yay size. You can grab a stack of pillows, a bunch of different a bunch of cushions. You can also roll up a blanket. And then you also may want a blanket or two. I have one laid out on top of my mat just for a little added cushion. You may want one to wrap up in Shavasana, or again for a little extra padding, a little lift. I'll explain in every pose ways that you can use the props. And you're also free to do the practice without the props. Just stay aware that, might take a little more activation to make sure that you're not going too deep and, causing any harm to the body. So I thought that we would focus a little bit on the upper body today. So we'll be getting into some neck, shoulders, upper and mid back stuff. So let's jump right into it. We'll get nice and grounded. So it's just your yogi's choice if you want to start seated or if you want to lie down. If you choose to sit, it is nice to sit up on a prop. That can help, it gives a little lift in the booty, and it also helps to tilt the pelvis forward so you can find a little more space in the hips and in the low back. This is especially helpful if you are tighter in the hips and low back, and just gives a little more space for the spine to expand or extend up towards the sky. And take your time to settle in. If you're seating, my words are not working today. If you are seated, then really connect down to the sits bones. If you choose to lie down, you can use props to support you in any way. You could use a blanket, you could put a cushion or some sort of padding underneath the knees. Just take as much time as you'd like to start to settle in. Get any wiggles out. Feel free to sigh out of the mouth, and then try to start to find a little bit of stillness in the body. Starting to settle in, setting aside your day, setting aside your to-do list, setting aside all the baggage that you carry around with you on the daily, knowing that you can pick it right back up after class, or you can leave it right where it is and just walk away. But for now, just set it all aside. Give yourself permission to dedicate this next hour or so to yourself, to allowing yourself this space, this time to move, to breathe, to be. As you start to find a little stillness in the body, start to notice the breath. The breath is this amazing process that happens without us even thinking about it. We've got a little special part in our brain that keeps the lungs pumping, keeps the lungs breathing, keeps the heart pumping. Bringing awareness to the breath, that helps us to get into our bodies, which helps us to settle into our present moment. And we can also start to harness the power of the breath, not just through observation, but through controlling of the breath. So if you'd like to take your connection to your breath a little deeper than just simple observation, then start to take deeper, longer breaths. working to draw the breath in and out of the nose throughout the duration of our practice, but if at any time it feels right to sigh out of the mouth, feel free. And with these deepened breaths, we want to try to draw the breath all the way down towards the belly. On that inhale, we want to press the belly out, which helps the diaphragm to lower and creates more space for the lungs to expand. And on the exhale, drawing the belly in, which helps to lift the diaphragm and squeeze that air out. You are also welcome to take your connection to the breath a step further with a little pranayama and activation of ujjayi breathing, which is done by activating the muscles in the back of the throat, creating a little oceanic sound, little whisper breath, that audible quality to tune into. Work. Just a couple more rounds of breath here, just connecting. Now, if you have chosen to start the practice by lying down, just gently start to make your way back up to a comfortable seat, no rush. And if you are already seated, if you need to readjust, maybe switch the cross of the legs or uncross through the legs, you can shake them out, maybe reposition in a seated position. And then again, we want to find that integrity down into the sits bones, using that to lengthen up through the crown of the head. You're welcome to continue to sit on the prop. We're just going to start by giving the neck a little bit of love. So as we lengthen up through the crown of the head, we have this strong integrity in the spine. We're sitting with intention, but we don't want to sit with tension. So we don't want to squeeze in the shoulders or tense up in the face or lock out into the jaw. So go ahead and relax through the shoulders. Relax in the face. If you have tension in the jaw, maybe lick the lips and just kind of let the low jaw move back and forth, just to kind of loosen up. And then inhaling to sit up nice and tall, shoulders away from the ears. On an exhale, we'll just drop the right ear over towards the right shoulder, opening up through the left side of the neck. Hands can stay as they are, or if you'd like, you could start to extend the left arm out, which just creates a little more activation, a little more sensation in the neck. You can also play with the placement of that hand. You could flex the fingers back. You could raise and lower that arm, noticing how that affects the stretch. You could take the arm forward and back. You could even bend the elbow, bringing the back of the hand to the low back, drawing the elbow back. So just different ways that you can explore this opening in the side of the neck. You can even bring a little gentle rocking side to side. And if you would like to go a little deeper, you could take the right hand, kind of cradling the head and, well, I guess not cradling, it's kind of like wrapping the arm around and just placing the right hand on the outside of the left side of the head, just adding a little weight for gravity to work with. We're not cranking the head down, and only if that feels right for you. So you can do one or all or none of those options, but we're breathing into the left side of the neck, releasing tension, letting any weight that you're carrying around in the shoulders just melt away. A couple more rounds of breath here. Beautiful work. When you feel ready, just bring the right hand to the right side of the head, and just offer a little assistance to the neck as the head comes back up through neutral, releasing both arms down. Once again, connecting to the sits bones, lengthen up through the spine. Take a nice deep inhale, and exhale, drop left ear over towards left shoulder, opening up through the right side of the neck. And again, you have all those options to explore. Hands can stay as they are. You could extend the right arm out at a diagonal, maybe flexing the wrist, fingers towards the shoulder. You can raise and lower that shoulder. You could bring it, or the hand, you could bring it forward and back. Bend in the elbow, bringing the hand to the low back, drawing the elbow back. Little gentle nodding of the head. All those different options to explore. If it would feel good to bring in a little extra weight, and reaching the left hand over towards the right side of the head, gently setting the hand there, and just giving gravity a little extra weight to work with. We're not cranking the head down, but if that feels good in that opening in the neck, then stick with it. Continue to breathe. Couple more rounds of breath here. And as you feel ready, releasing the left hand, if it was on the head, bringing it to the left side of the head, and just offering the neck a little support as you come back up through neutral, releasing both arms down. Once again, connect to the sits bones, lengthen up through the crown of the head on the inhale. Exhale, drop the chin down towards the chest, lengthening through the back of the neck. Shoulders relax, shoulder blades melt down the back. Noticing where you feel tension here. And if bringing that little extra weight into the head, into the stretch, feels good, then you could interlace the hands and place them at the back of the head, elbows dropping in together. And again, we're not using this to force the head down. We're not cranking down on it. Just adding a little weight for gravity to work with if that feels good for you. Connecting to the breath, and intentionally releasing through the neck, through the shoulders. Focusing on any areas of tension or tenderness as you breathe. Beautiful work. One more round of breath here. And if you'd like, if the hands are on the head, you can go ahead and keep them there. And then we'll slowly start to raise the head up towards neutral. The hands don't have to be there, but if they are, feel free. And then we're going to continue to lift through the head. Elbows draw back if the hands are there. And we extend up through the throat, lifting in the chin. We're going to get a stretch through the front side of the neck. And the hands are just there to protect the delicate bones in the neck so that we're not just throwing the weight back into our cervical spine, but that there's a little bit of support there. And you can continue to open up through the shoulders, maybe send the head back a little further. And if it doesn't feel good to have the hands there, you're welcome to release them down. But know that we're looking for more lift and extension through the throat, through the chin, than we are sending the head all the way back. So still getting a stretch to the front side of the neck, but being aware that we're not crunching in the back of the neck. Couple more rounds of breath here. Beautiful work. When you're ready, if the hands are still behind the head, you can just use them to gently lift the head back up towards neutral, releasing the arms down. Just take an inhale to bring the shoulders up towards the ears, and exhale, release them down. 2 more like that. Inhale, shoulders raise up, and exhale, lower down. Last one, inhale, shoulders raise, and exhale, release them down. Now we'll take some neck rolls. So you're welcome to take half neck rolls or full neck rolls. And the only difference is, again, protecting the back of the neck, those really delicate bones in the neck. So we'll start by lengthening up through the crown of the head on an inhale. Exhale, dropping right ear over towards right shoulder. And then on an exhale, once again, dropping the chin down towards the chest. And then starting to roll the head over towards the left. If you want to take half neck rolls, you'll pause here and then just drop the chin back down, rolling over towards the other side. If you do want to take full neck rolls, again, just stay aware. So we want to bring a little more lift in the chin. We're not throwing the head back, but protecting the neck and continuing all the way around. So your choice, if you're taking half or full neck rolls, take your time. These could be as big or as small as you'd like. And if you happen to find an area that feels a little extra crunchy, maybe needs a little extra love, you can bring a hand or 2 in, giving yourself a little massage. If you're taking full neck rolls and haven't already, go ahead and reverse the direction of those circles. Staying with the breath as you move through the neck. Nothing forceful, nothing aggressive. Staying aware, staying present. Slowly starting to rotate the head back towards neutral. And we'll stay in a seated position for a little bit longer, working a little bit with the shoulders and maybe a little side stretching. So if you need to, go ahead and uncross through the legs, maybe shake them out, maybe switch up the position of your seat, whatever would feel good there. My feet were falling asleep, so waken those puppies back up. All right, and then whatever your new seated position is, if it is a new seated position, again, just find that integrity, find that connection to the sits bones. Lengthen up through the crown of the head, sitting up nice and tall. And then we're gonna inhale, sending the arms out to the side, raising them up towards the sky. On an exhale, we're gonna release the right hand down, reach up through the left fingertips, and slowly start to arch it over towards the side. Now, how you are seated is going to affect the stretch, this position. So with my legs bent and feet planted on the ground, it may not be as intense as it would maybe in a cross-legged seat and with the hips more open. So you can kind of play with that. You could extend the legs out, but we're really just looking to get a nice side stretch here. And then we'll bring in a little movement through the arm. So we'll just take some circles through that shoulder. Big or small, doesn't matter. We'll work both sides, both directions. And reversing the direction of those circles. Awesome work. Pausing when that left arm is extending overhead, bicep near the ear. We'll inhale to come up through center, reaching both arms up towards the sky. On an exhale, we're just going to take a nice gentle twist over towards the right. Allowing the hands to drop down. They can, come down for support, but we don't really want to use leverage here. So So even though we can, we don't necessarily need to. We do, however, want to draw the right shoulder back, finding an opening in the chest. We want to lengthen down to the sits bones and lengthen up through the crown of the head so that we have a nice tall spine. Awesome work. Now we have the left hand on the right knee. We'll inhale to lengthen, keeping the hand there. Exhale, we'll start to untwist towards center. We'll raise the right hand up. It'll cross in front and it'll grab the other side, the other knee, unless you're not in cross-legged. You could still take this with the legs extended. And then we're gonna inhale to lengthen up, sitting up as tall as you can. And then exhale, rounding out in the upper back, tucking the chin towards the chest if there's space, and just really letting the shoulder blades separate, rounding out, letting the back of the heart shine out. One more deep round of breath. When you're ready on your next inhale, we'll start to rise up, coming up to a seat. We'll reach the arms up, uncross, and release them back down alongside the body. Awesome work. We'll just take that to the other side. If you want to switch up the position of the legs, if you need to shake them out, feel free. When you're ready, extending up towards the crown of the head, nice solid connection to the sits bones. Inhale, arms reach out and up, lengthening in the side body. Exhale, release the left hand down, reach up and over, getting that nice side stretch. You can bend that left elbow. It could come to the ground if that's accessible. It's not in my body, but for some people it is. Breathing into that space you're creating in the side body. And then when you're ready, you're starting to bring in those arm circles. And as big or as small as you'd like, just working through that rotator cuff. Maybe picking up on a little crunchiness or tenderness in the shoulder blades, reversing direction of those circles. Awesome work. Finishing up when that right arm is reaching overhead, bicep near the ear. Awesome work. We'll inhale to come back up through center, reaching both arms up towards the sky. And then we'll exhale to take a nice gentle twist over towards the left. So the right hand finds the left knee if you're sitting cross-legged, or the outside of the thigh if you're sitting regular, or if you're sitting legs forward. The left hand can come back behind you for a little kickstand, little support. We're not using it as leverage to crank ourselves deeper into the twist, but you can use it to lengthen up through the crown of the head. Maybe you tent the hands and come up onto the fingertips to give yourself a little more length. We continue to breathe into the body as we find nice articulation of the spine, as we breathe into our twist. The left shoulder draws back to open up through the chest, but we don't need to crank ourselves over. We don't really need to go much further than 30 to 35 degrees past midline in our twist to maintain a healthy spine. Beautiful work. Now we're going to keep the right hand on the outside of the leg or on the knee. We're going to inhale to lengthen up. On the exhale, we'll start to untwist, bringing the chest forward, reaching the left arm up and across, coming in front of the right arm, finding the other outside of the knee or leg. Inhaling to lengthen up, and exhale, round it out. If it feels okay, tucking the chin in towards the chest, and just work with what space you've got. If you've got, a broader chest or a larger chest for some of the women, this may be a little, you may need to negotiate a little bit more. You could, instead of hanging on the outsides of the knees, maybe the hands come down towards the shins so that the cross isn't as extreme. But really what we're looking for is to just facilitate an opening in the shoulders. So a rounding forward of the shoulders as we round out in the upper back, allowing the shoulder blades to separate, creating space, breathing in to the back side of the body near the upper back. And when I say, breathing into a certain area, I obviously know that we don't have lungs in our back or in our shoulders or in our belly, but it's more just bringing awareness to those areas as we breathe intentionally. Beautiful work. One more deep round of breath here. And then on your next inhale from the sits bones, we're going to lengthen up. Find that integrity in the spine. Head raises up. We reach the arms, uncross, and exhale. Bring them back down alongside the body. Fantastic work. We're going to come forward to hands and knees, so we'll set up a tabletop. And again, if you need to stretch out through the legs first or shake them out, feel free. And then we'll set up our tabletop here. We do want to kind of play with the position of the hands. Very often in classes, we're told that the wrists are directly underneath the shoulders. That can be a good starting place, but not everyone's built the same way. So having that extreme 90-degree angle in the wrist may not feel awesome, especially if you have carpal tunnel or any other wrist issues. It also may not feel good to have the hands that narrow, especially if we have broader shoulders or, just how our rotator cuff is built. So you can kind of play. Maybe you can take the hands forward, maybe they come out a little wider, maybe even play with the positioning of the fingers, kind of the angle. What I've noticed, what works best for me is forward a little wider and then bringing my pointer finger to be the front of the mat, to point towards the front instead of my middle finger. That is what works best for me. I've got a little carpal tunnel in my wrist, and this just feels like a better solid connection for me. So you can play with that. Knees can be underneath the hips, again, as a good starting point. And then we'll just move through some cat-cow here. So inhaling, dropping the belly, pelvis tilts up, gaze lifts, heart shines forward, getting a nice stretch to the front side of the body. And then on an exhale, starting from the belly, drawing the belly in and up, coming through neutral, and then continue to round out in the spine, tucking the chin, tucking the tail. So this is cat-cow. Cow, as we drop our udders down towards the ground, a little smiling up the spine. And then cat as we round out, arching out like a Halloween cat. Excuse me. Take this at whatever pace, linking the breath to the movements in whatever way feels right. And only taking it as deep as feels okay for you. And then after a few rounds of this spinal articulation, just bring in a little freestyle movement. So you could, shift forward and back, a little movement through the knees and through the shoulders. You could take some circles through the hips, bringing some movement into the hips and the knees. You could come back through tabletop and take some torso circles. So working through cat-cow, but also taking it into a side stretch as well. Are there any other movements that would feel good here? You could wag the tail, you could take the gaze over each shoulder. Now we are going to be on hands and knees for a little bit here. We're getting into thread the needle next. So if you do have sensitivity in the knees, you're welcome to double up on the mat. You can add a cushion, you can bring in a blanket for some padding. And I suggest everyone pad the knees, even if you don't have knee issues now. In the future, we probably all are going to have knee issues, so why not give them some love right now while we can. All right, so for our for our thread the needle, you're welcome to take a few rounds of the twist before settling in. So again, the hands planted nice and firm. We're going to shift some weight over into the left hand so that we can extend the right arm out. It can reach out to the side, or it can start to reach up towards the sky, bringing in a little twist. On an exhale, we're going to thread the arm through. If you want to take a few rounds of this and just kind of hover the arm, or it could reach back and tap the right rib. And then we'll inhale to untwist, reaching the arm out or up. Exhaling to twist and thread through. And now take as many rounds of this exploration through the twist as feels good for you. And then when you're ready to settle into the pose, as we thread the right arm underneath, we'll start to lower the shoulder, the ear down. Hips are going to stay raised and squared. So notice if you shift the hips from one side to the other, we want them pretty squared. There's probably a tendency to shift a little more to the left, so bringing that hip back to the right. Our left hand could stay where it is, planted on the ground near the face. You could press a little more into that hand to roll onto the right shoulder. Maybe finding a little more opening, a little more space in the scapula. Another way to explore is to extend that left arm overhead like in a child's pose. That's going to create, at least for me, a little more of a twist in the upper body. You're also welcome to reach that arm up towards the sky and bring it back to the low back, or even hooking it around to the outside of the thigh. And that's going to bring in a little more opening across the chest and bring the twist a little lower into about the mid-back. And if it doesn't feel awesome to be in this forward folded kneeling position, then from any seated or standing position, you can also just extend that right arm out to the side and then start to bring it forward and across the body, coming all the way across. You can bring the left hand to the forearm or to the wrist to maybe support a little drawing of the hand back. So this is just a way to modify, or another option to explore if being down on the ground like this doesn't feel awesome for you. Check in with the breath. We still want to connect to our intentional breathing. It may feel a little different breathing in twists because the belly is all twisted up and we're trying to, expand. But you should still be able to get those deep belly breaths even in the twist. And if you're not able to, then that's a good sign that you may have gotten too far into your twist. If the breath feels forced or stagnant, or like you have to hold the breath. And that doesn't apply just to twists. Twist is a good one where you can really feel the difference. But in any pose, in any practice, yoga practice, if it ever gets to the point where it's so strenuous that you can't breathe or that you hold the breath, then that's just a workout. That's not yoga. We really want to bring in that essence of the breath. That is what makes yoga different than just a physical activity is that breath and the benefits that we get from the breath, not only from that life force, the prana that it creates in the body, but from the oxygen that we get, from the intention that concentrating on the breath brings. It brings us into our bodies. It brings us very present. So we're not just phoning our way through an exercise program, but we are intentionally exploring our bodies through movement and through breath, through presence. A couple more rounds of breath in our thread the needle on the first side. As you feel ready, if the left hand has traveled away, we want to bring it back to its original position. So with the elbow bent, hand planted, kind of near the face. And then we want to inhale to lengthen through the spine, finding that integrity. And then we'll exhale to slowly start to untwist, coming through center. Inhale to lengthen through the spine, maybe reaching the arm up, little counter stretch. And exhale, back to hands and knees. Feel free to take any movements, anything that would feel awesome here. And then whenever you're ready, we'll start to set up our tabletop, or we'll come back to our tabletop and set up our twist on the other side. So kind of taking a few rounds of the twist first feels awesome for you. And we're going to plant the hands. We're going to find nice squaring through the hips. We're going to bring a little more weight into the right hand so that we can inhale and extend the left arm out to the side. Maybe it reaches up towards the sky. And exhale, we bring in a twist. We thread the arm through. If you want to take a few rounds, maybe the arm just reaches and hovers, or we could tap the back left rib or back right rib. If you're taking a few rounds, inhaling to untwist, reaching out or up. Exhaling to twist and thread. Exploring that for as long as feels good, that you want to keep that movement, and when you're ready to settle into the pose, threading the left arm underneath the right, setting the arm, the shoulder, the ear down. And if the head doesn't touch, that's totally fine. If you want it to, bring in a block or a blanket or a pillow, something to fill in the space between you and the ground. We want to check in with the hips. Again, we want them pretty squared, so most likely you'll need to draw the left hip back if the hips aren't squared. Playing with whatever placement of the right hand feels awesome here, maybe leaving it where it is, pressing into the hand, maybe leaning a little more onto the left shoulder, getting a little more opening through that scapula. The right arm could extend overhead like a child's pose. It could reach up towards the sky, resting on the low back, or even wrapping around, maybe looking for that left thigh. And again, you have the option to not be bowed forward, to come into whatever seated or standing position feels good for you. Extending the left arm out to the side, bringing it forward and across the body, using the right hand to bring in a little support to get that stretch across the shoulder, into the back, and into that scapula, the left scapula. Checking in with the breath. And notice the thoughts that arise for you through your practice. yoga not only gives us the physical benefit, which is just a nice byproduct, but what it really gives us an opportunity to do is to observe our bodies as we intentionally move them through specifically designed poses, and to observe the mind as we work through these poses. Observe the thoughts. And then to have an opportunity to kind of take a step back, to not immediately react to those thoughts, to react to whatever comes up. And that can be an extremely beneficial quality to master, I guess. Master is not the right word. Just to work on. It's a good quality to possess. This ability to observe when things arise in the body, in the mind, and the soul. And instead of immediately reacting, letting our knee-jerk reactions kick in, letting our emotions respond, letting our defense mechanisms take over, letting our coping mechanisms respond. Instead, we're able to take a step back and be like, oh, this is interesting. Where did this come from? What is this feeling? What is this thought? And then taking that pause before reacting, we take back our power. And then we get to choose. Do I want to go with that initial reaction? Do I want to go with a different reaction? Do I want to not react at all? And that kind of discernment, that kind of moment of pause and reflection can mean the difference in a situation, in an argument, in anything high tense or high emotions. That moment of pause and reflection can bring so many benefits in so many different aspects of your life. A few more rounds of breath here. As you feel ready, again, we want to bring the right hand back to its original placement, elbow bent, hand planted on the ground and near the face. Inhale to lengthen through the spine. We'll exhale to slowly start to untwist back through neutral. Inhaling as you extend that left arm out to the side or up to the sky. And exhale, back to hands and knees. Feel free to take any movements, any stretches, anything here that would feel good. Check the time. Oh yeah. Okay. Awesome work. Now we stretched kind of the back of the shoulder and into the upper back. So now we're going to get into the chest and front of the shoulder with a little shoulder pigeon. So from our hands and knees, we're going to come all the way down onto the belly. So however you'd like to do that, walking the hands forward, walking the knees back, coming all the way down to the ground. And we're going to extend the right arm out into a T, palm facing the ground, so that the hand is in line with the shoulder. And we're going to take the gaze over towards the left, setting the head down. We're going to plant the left hand under the shoulder, and then we're going to slowly start to press and roll onto the right side body. You do want to release the head and neck down. So if it doesn't quite touch, you're welcome to fold up the mat, bring in a blanket or a pillow. So if I were laying on the ground, my arm would be extended out into that T. And then as I roll back, it's opening up so that I'm eventually, I kind of look like this. And if it doesn't feel good to be on the belly, you can do this on the wall as well. So you can come up, facing the wall, extending that arm out, and then starting to turn the chest in the opposite direction. You get that opening in the pec, the inner shoulder, probably feeling it a little bit in the scapula as well. You can play with the positioning of the legs. The legs could be extended straight out. You could stagger the legs. You could bend the knees in towards the chest. You could also, again, we don't want to go too deep into the twist, but you could plant the top foot, bending the knee, planting the foot behind the leg. It does bring in a little bit of twisting. And the left hand is welcome to stay where it is. It's a nice little support, nice little kickstand. If it feels okay to put a little extra weight on the right shoulder and you do want to explore a little bit more, you could start to reach the left arm back, kind of reaching back for the right hand, obviously won't touch. You could also bend the elbow and kind of release the hand to the low back. So that's going to bring a little more opening in the chest. Might bring a little more intensity to the front right shoulder. And it may also bring in some activation of the shoulder blades. This, if you bring the arm back, then it allows that left shoulder blade to kind of squeeze in. So you might get a little more sensation there. It's up to you to determine if it's a good sensation or not. Now, it's impossible for me to know what this feels like in your body. I can simply describe as best as I know and how it feels in mine. And then encourage you to explore the sensation. If our nervous system kicks in, that's a sign that we've gone too far. The nervous system will let you know if you're about to get injured. So tune into that. If there's any pinching, burning, tearing sensations, that's not good. The phrase no pain, no gain does not apply to yoga. A couple more rounds of breath here. Awesome work. As you feel ready, if that left hand traveled away, you want to bring it back to its original spot. Again, planted kind of near the face or wherever for some support as you slowly start to roll back towards center. Taking your time. Taking any counter stretches, anything that would feel good here, maybe even just stacking the hands, resting the third eye on the knuckles, maybe a little shimmy. You're welcome to come back up into a tabletop and take any movements there. And then as you feel ready, we'll just start to set that up on the other side. So extending the left arm out to a T. Planting that right hand, turning the gaze over towards the right, and then pressing and rolling onto the left side body, just as far as feels okay. Playing with the positioning of the legs, whatever feels good here. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same exact shape as we took on the other side. And again, if being on the belly doesn't feel good, if it's too intense on the shoulder to have that weight, you can come up to the wall, extending that left arm out, turning the gaze over towards the right, and then starting to open the chest over towards the right, getting that nice deep stretch against the wall. You have those options for exploring the placement of the right hand. It could stay where it is. Or if it feels okay to put, again, a little extra pressure on the right, or on the left shoulder. And you could start to extend that arm, maybe back, reaching, energetically reaching for the left hand. Obviously won't touch unless you're crazy hypermobile in the shoulders, which is not a bad thing. And then, or you can release the hand to the low back, putting a little more opening in the chest. And one's not better than the other, it's just what feels good for you on this side in this moment. Couple more rounds of breath here. Whenever you start to feel complete on this side, I'll bring the right hand, if it's traveled away, back to its original position, just for some support there as we start to roll back onto the belly. And again, taking any movements, any stretches that would feel awesome here. And from here, we're going to do a really fancy yoga move. And we're going to flip-flop onto our back. Fanciest yoga move you'll ever attempt. All right, coming onto the back. We'll bend the knees, planting the feet on the ground. We're going to extend the arms up and overhead. And then I guess not overhead, up towards the sky. Sorry about that. Up towards the sky. And then we're going to cross the right arm in front of the left, grabbing opposite elbows. Walking the feet out a little wider than hip distance. We're going to take opposite windshield wipers. So we'll take the knees over towards the right, elbows over towards the left. Back up through center. Knees to the left, elbows to the right. Back up through center and take a few rounds like this. Working a little twisting, getting a little release through the hips and the low back. And a little bit of shoulder stretching. When you're ready, come back up through neutral with elbows and knees. Re-extend the arms up towards the sky. And then re-bend this time, left arm in front, grabbing opposite elbows. And repeat. So as the knees go to the right, elbow shift to the left. Back up through center. Knees to the left, elbows to the right. And back up through center. Taking a few rounds here. You're ready, coming back up through neutral. And then we'll send the arms overhead. So the elbows, we're still grasping onto opposite elbows. So the arms are going to kind of be framing the head. So we're bringing the biceps by the ears, the forearms will cross at the top of the head. And just allow the elbows, the shoulders to drop. And it's okay if the arms don't touch the ground. Mine definitely don't. I've definitely got tighter shoulders. You're welcome to stay here with the legs, or if it would feel good, take it into a hip opener, bringing the bottoms of the feet to touch and let the knees drop open. And we haven't done much with the hips tonight, so just stay aware of that. You're welcome to slide blocks underneath the knees for some support, or a couple bolsters. Just knowing that the hips aren't very warmed up, so we don't want to force them to go too deep. When you're ready, we'll just start to draw the elbows up, and we'll just switch it out. So once again, extending the arms up, crisscrossing right forearm comes back in front, and then once again we start to bring biceps by the ears, forearms overhead, elbows lower towards the ground. As you feel ready, we'll slowly start to raise the elbows back up, unclasping the hands, bringing the hands to the outsides of the thighs to gently draw the knees in. Nice and slow, bringing the knees in towards the chest. Grabbing onto the outsides or tops of the knees, or even wrapping the arms around, hugging in. If it would feel good, even lift the head, tuck the chin in, give yourself a nice big squeeze. Awesome work. Nice deep inhale. And on the exhale, release the hug, extend through the arms, extend through the legs. And we'll come into a lying pose, into a shavasana, into a corpse pose. Getting into our final relaxation. If there are any movements that you'd like to take here to round out your practice, feel free. I know that for most of you, the head will be at the top of the mat, which is a little different than a typical shavasana. If you didn't notice that that's not an issue, then that's fine. But for some, that may be out of your comfort zone. You may have the urge to flip around. You may have already flipped around. But I encourage you to sit in that uncomfortability, because it's simply preference. There's no right or wrong way to do this. There's no right or wrong direction to lay. It's kind of a fun little observation game. So wrapping up your practice, finding your final relaxation. And of course, if lying on the back for your final relaxation sounds like anything but relaxing, or it just doesn't feel awesome in your body today, feel free to lie on the side. You can lie on your belly. You could even come up to a seated meditation. Allowing yourself this time to surrender. This time to release, to let go. Already set aside our baggage. We've taken off all the hats that we wear throughout the day, throughout our lives. What's left is just you. You in your body, connecting to your breath. Observing the mind, allowing things to happen, allowing the moment to unfold around you, as you simply breathe and notice. Relish this time, this moment, to just be. For those of you practicing at home, if you have more time to dedicate to your Shavasana, please take it. Please give yourself at least 5 more minutes, upwards of 20. As you begin to feel ready, just gently start to bring some movement back into your body. Slowly starting to wake up from your yoga nap. If you are lying down and not already there, as you feel ready, gently start to shift onto one side of your body. And wherever you find yourself, just pause for a moment of gratitude. Gratitude for yourself, for carving out this time, for getting on your mat, for trusting in yourself, in me, and for trusting in yoga. As you feel ready, gently make your way back up to a comfortable seat. And to close our practice, I'll invite you to bring the hands to heart center or take any other meaningful gesture with the hands. Thank you so much for sharing this practice with me, for allowing me into your homes and into your life today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I see you, I honor you, and I bow to you. Namaste.